Well, hello. I'm going to show you how to make my seesong stitch into a flat panel. And this is the lacy version that's flat and straight right here. So this is the one I'm going to be showing you today. There, you can pick up it a little bit better here, or maybe there like that. See what the stitch is like, and it looks really nice on both sides. There's the other side. And I did this one, I'm doing this one in Landscapes yarn, and it's in the color Blue Lagoon, and it's a number 4 yarn. And my yarns here are getting tangled up here. Okay, and then I was going to show you two things on this one that I'm doing. This is seesong, and I'm doing this one into a zigzag scarf. And this is using a thin, bulky yarn. And I'm using the same gauge. It's a 3/4 inch gauge, and that's what this one is, a 3/4 inch gauge. So this is what it looks like when you do it tighter. It has smaller eyelets. So this way it could be suitable for winter as well. And this shows you if you made the flat panel also with the thicker yarn, you would have less big eyelets. You'd have smaller eyelets. So that's just to show you that, and I will be doing a video of this separately, but I just wanted to show you the difference. Oh, and the other thing is, this is not the flat version. This version is angled. So this, you can also make it angled, and that's why I can make it into the zigzag. And so it will look a slight bit different because I've done it differently to have the flat panel. But if you did it in the round, it would look like this, and it would be fine in the round, and you could do it lacier by using a smaller gauge too. Okay, so I'm just going to get this put away and set up to show you, and I will be right back. Okay, so the first thing is to do this stitch, you're going to need to use an uneven set of pegs. So I used 17 pegs, but you could use any uneven number, and that 17 pegs gave me a 8-inch wide scarf here that's coming along. And you need to mark your pegs. So you can use anything you want. I often use little elastics. Right here I just use these locking stitch markers, and they work fine. Now you do the odd pegs. So this is peg 3, 6, and so on. So you mark every odd peg all the way to here, and so then you'll always have the 2 pegs at the end here. That won't be part of what we're doing here. So the first thing I need to do is show you the cast on. So I've got some Caron Cake yarn here, and I'm just going to show you the cast on that I used with this and how to get started, and then we can return over here to do some work. And also this yarn might be, this yarn isn't so easy to see against the green loom, and then I have the green yarn here, but I'll make sure I do close up so you'll be able to see real well. So I just make a slip knot, and we use this as our number 1 peg, and I'm only going to cast on a few pegs. So we take the hook and we insert it into the loop, and we put the working yarn there, and we bring the working yarn through the loop, and we just tighten it, and then we take the loop, put it behind the second peg, put the working yarn through it, and snug it up. Very easy cast on. Snug it up. Loop goes behind the peg, working yarn through and snug it up. So just like that. And this is enough pegs, and then when you're on your last peg, you just put the loop over, tighten it a bit, and then I just always just knit it over. And now we're going to do 2 rows of owl eye. So if you haven't seen the owl eye stitch before, I'm just going to finish this last peg, and then here I will start the owl eye stitch. So we just knit over it, and then wherever our working yarn is peg 1. We come behind and in front of peg 1, in front of peg 2. We do this quite loose, and then we just knit them over. Now we're at peg 1. We go behind and in front of peg 1, over peg 2, and just knit them off. And we do that nice and loose. Again, just like that, and knit it over. And I have lots of videos on my YouTube channel showing me doing owl eye stitch, so easy to find. We need to look at it more. So here we go over the last 2 pegs. This is also the edge that I did there. Let's come around here, and we go back and we do the other row of owl eye, just like this. Now you can slip the edge stitch if that's what you really want to do. I prefer to do that edge on this stitch, and one of the things I really like about this edge is if I need to adjust it slightly, I can do that. So if I need to make it a tiny bit bigger, I can do that. I like that. You can't do that with the slipped edge, and also the slipped edge is loose, so I'm not really a fan of it that way. Okay, so now that we've done this, we're ready to start with the next step. So I'm going to do that over here. Now the other thing that I did is I needed to know a way to know what row I'm on, so I'm using this little orange stitch marker just to tell me that I'm working towards it. I'm working this way towards it, and then I'll move it when I need to, and it actually really helps me that way. Okay, so I'd already come back and I'm coming this way again, so I'm ready to do a row. Now what we do is any peg that's marked is a peg that's always going to be an eyelet. And so this will sound funny, but I always think of it as a hot potato. It's a game I used to play when I was a kid, and if you had the hot potato, you had to throw it to somebody else. You never wanted to hold it. So I think of these pegs as a hot potato, and then that way I always remember that I'm taking the yarn off them. I got to get that hot potato off that peg. So whichever direction I'm going, I know that I'm taking the yarn off of a marked peg. So we're going this way, so we're taking the yarn off the marked peg and putting it on top of the peg next to it. Just like that. And letting it sit on there. And we'll go over to the next marked peg, move it over to on top. And it won't be as awkward as I'm doing it because I'm trying to keep it really close in the camera angle for you. Next peg, and just put the yarn over. So we're taking the yarn off all the marked pegs and putting them on the peg to the left of it. Now you could do this as you were knitting, but I prefer to move all the yarn over in the beginning. Oh, I'm having trouble with this one. I'm going to have to turn it around. There we go, because it's splitting on me. And there we go. Oh, there's one more right here. Don't want to miss any. Trouble with this one too. There we go. Makes it a lot easier for me to do it when I can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so now these are all moved over. And then all we're going to do is basically do the owl eye stitch all the way down. And how we're going to do it is we're going to take the working yarn and we're going to come behind peg 1 here, although I already did that, I think, when I knitted over. Actually, let's just check and see if I did. Yep, I had, so I'm going to put that back on, loop back on, knit over it the first time. Okay, we're at peg 1. We're going to go over peg 1. We're going to ignore the peg that has the marker on with no yarn and go over to peg 2 over here. Always ignoring these empty pegs. We're just yarning over them. And we knit off these 2 pegs. And then we're at peg 1. We go over peg 1, peg 2, skipping that peg. And here we're taking off the 2 yarns. So if you find it a little tight, and I'm a little worried because I'm using a roving yarn that tears easy, so I'm just going to put them over one at a time. We're at peg 1, we go over, off peg 1, knit off peg 2. And now this becomes 1, we go over. So that's basically all we're doing. And this gets really, really fast to do because you just quickly move those loops over. And then this is really fast coming back this way. I've got to do them one at a time. And then we do the last 2, just like that. And then we come back. And I always just do these 2. So I can just have this more secure when I leave it. So now you can see that we have another one coming up here. Okay, so now we just owl eye back here again. When we get over these pegs that had the yarn laid over them, we just owl eye them, just like that. Now, when I do just owl eye, I always use the edge that I'm using right now because it's nice tight edge. But I do know it's going to be a little bit looser just because we have all these eyelets. So when we get to this corner, I'll show you how you can adjust it. And about every, oh, I don't know, 5 or 6 rows, I'll do the adjustment. You never notice it at the side. and it will make your edge just that little bit longer. So here's our edge. I don't know if you can see it on this dark yarn very good, but it just looks like a tight little braided look. Okay, so we're going to come over this edge and then going to come back right at the front of the work, and now I'm going to make that little adjustment. So I'm just going to come back again and knit this again and go back again, and I've just made the edge that little bit longer, and you never notice it. It is going to look just the same as the rest of it at the side. You won't notice it, especially blending in with the eyelets, and it will give you just that little bit extra length that you might need. Okay, so I've moved the stitch marker now over to this side, and that tells me that we're going to be moving the hot potatoes that way this time. So, and we have to alternate which way we move them so that we can keep making a flat panel. So I actually shouldn't have put my yarn over to here. There, let's leave it there, over that peg, because we're going to be moving this one right onto here. And it doesn't really matter which end you start at, as long as you move all the yarn off the pegs that have the marker onto the pegs to the right. And we have the eyelet that we just made here, and we're going to be making the next eyelet. So that's basically all you do. Is you're going to move, oh, what's going on here? My yarn got caught. Doesn't want to move. There we go. This yarn splits so darn easy. Okay, and then the last one. There we go. So they're all moved over. And then all we do is owl eye again. So now we'll be taking the two yarns over here, wrapping over one, wrapping over two, knitting them off, wrapping, going right over the empty peg, knitting it off. So we're always going to be just coming over and owling over like this and forgetting the peg with the marker, and then coming back at an owl eye. And the only thing that's going to change is that we go a different direction, and we just use that marker. I just use the marker. You can use any method you like to tell us that we needed to change the direction. So we just owl eye back, And we're almost back. And I always move the stitch marker, but I'm not gonna bother. I know we're going the other way now. Well, I'll move the stitch marker. I'm sure by now you understand what we're doing. So now I'll be moving things that way. We've come back, we've owl eye. See, we have another eyelet made here. There's our new eyelet we just made. And so now we take this, the yarn off the one with the marker, and we move it over to the left. And we move them all to the left. I'm just gonna do this one, and I'll go over it once more. So we would just move them all to left. We would owl eye over the empty peg, ignoring it. Owl eye back, change. We'll be going to the right instead of the left when we move the yarn off, and that's all there is to it, going back and forth, and this is what you get. And like I said before, if you use a thick yarn, you're going to have just small little eyelets. This is a number 4 yarn, and I'm on the really wide gauge. This is the widest gauge, a 3/4 inch, well, the widest gauge in the Nifty Knitter sets and that kind of thing, and it gives you this lace. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm not going to show you how to cast off because I'm still working on this, but I'll link to the cast off that matches the cast on I did. This is what the cast on looks like. It's just a nice chain, and the bind off looks like a nice chain. And I'll put a link in there because it's on my YouTube channel. Okay, until I see you next time, hope you enjoyed the video, and bye.